Part 19. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bh Yaoye 11U. Chapter 183. When Suqing'an returned to Beijia village, she was welcomed by everyone in the village. Read. The villagers were very enthusiastic, surrounded her and asked her about her life, followed her closely, and almost lifted her up and walked away. Suqing'an was flattered. Zhezhong almost burst into tears. She was finally here. It was such a great honor for Ma Daren's goddaughter to stay in their village. They would not be occupied by others again, and no one would die again. We must serve Madame Su well. Zhezhong and the villagers welcomed her and her son directly to the large houses on the hillside that were originally occupied by the bearded man. Madame Su, I ordered everyone to clean up. According to your wishes, their original bedroom was changed into a study, and the large room on the other side was made into a bedroom for you and your son, and the meeting room was kept. Many things have also been replaced. Sorry for your trouble. Madame Su, please don't say that. It's our honor that you choose to come to our village. Suqingmei didn't say anything more and looked around the rooms. Coming into this place again, thinking of the scene when she saw the bearded man and Wu Niang here, Yujin felt a little dazed. At the beginning, she just wanted to escape, stay far away, and never come back. Unexpectedly, she is back to this place now. Seeing that the leader of the Zhong village was following him, he asked, "Where is Wu Niang who followed the bandit boss?" The leader of the Zhong village replied, "The bandit boss and his men were killed by Lord Ma because of their stubborn resistance. Those bandits who committed many evil things, raped women, and beat and killed villagers in the village were also killed. Some of them did not seem to be very evil, and they voluntarily begged for mercy. Lord Ma did not kill them all, but let them go. Wu Niang also left the mountain, and no one knew where she went." Suqing'an nodded. Although Wu Niang was robbed by the bandit boss, she was like a fish in water around the bandit boss. People like her can also fight for a way out in troubled times. Suqing'an shook her head. She walked around several rooms and was very satisfied. She thanked the leader of the Zhong village. She also arranged accommodation for the mother and daughter of the Lu family and the brothers Ma Siyuan and Ma Siyuan. They all lived not far from her. These houses are located on the hillside, with a gentle terrain. A row of rooms are built, all of which are brick and stone structures, built high and bright. They should have been built by successive village chiefs or wealthy and prestigious villagers. They are well preserved. In addition to the meeting hall in the middle, there are rooms on both sides, and there are also wing rooms on both sides, with a courtyard in front and a yard in the back. Suqingmei walked around and had a plan in mind. She called Lu over and gave her instructions, asking her to clean up the kitchen first, so that they could cook for themselves in the future. Then she was asked to clean up the backyard when she had time, and plant some vegetables before the frost, so that she could be self-sufficient. When the village chief Zhong heard this, he immediately called several people in the village to help. Not only did they help clean up the kitchen, but they also cleaned up the dining hall, firewood room, and warehouse next to it. People were asked to carry firewood to the firewood room, filling it up. There is no shortage of firewood in the mountains, it just takes a little effort. The open space in the backyard and front yard was also turned over by the enthusiastic villagers in a few strokes, and a layer of fertilizer was carefully spread to make it convenient for Suqing'an and others to grow vegetables. They even found a lot of seeds for Suqing'an to choose from. Suqing'an was very grateful. She thanked them again and again. The mother and daughter of the Lu family also felt the enthusiasm of the villagers, and swept away the tension when they entered the mountain. They were already chatting with the villagers. Suqing'an invited the village chief Zhong to talk in the lobby. "Where is Xiu'er? Why didn't I see her?" The face of the village chief Zhong was a little sad. Xiu'er wanted to see you and Xiaobao, but she knew that Beisha came back with you, so she hid away." Suqing'an was puzzled. Why did she hide away when she saw Beishu coming back with us? The village chief Zhong opened his mouth again, and finally said, Xiu'er is Beishu's fiancé. Ah! I didn't know before. I haven't heard them say it. Suqing and was quite surprised. Shouldn't she come to see Beishu, young? She's been away for so many days, don't you miss him? Zaza Zhong shook his head painfully. 2 days after you left, Xiu'er was dragged out by those thieves. She refused to obey and stabbed the thief with a hairpin. The thief was furious and called 2 more people to restrain Xiu'er. Xiu'er was ruined, she couldn't face Beishu. Suqing felt very uncomfortable after hearing this, and something was stuck in her throat. That night, she should have taken her away with her. It was Xiu'er who was afraid of implicating the people in the village, so she watched them leave. Suqing felt very sad. After a long time, he asked, what about Beishu? Didn't he say anything? Beishu has looked for Xiu'er and said he didn't mind. But Xiu'er just wanted to break off the engagement. She hides when she sees Beishu these days. This child has a miserable life. Her father fell off the mountain while hunting when she was young and died, and her mother also ran away from the mountain. She has no father or mother and has been with me since she was a child. She finally got engaged and looked forward to marrying Beishu every day, but she encountered such a thing, damn thief. Beishu is also a miserable child, and he is the only one left in his family. Both of them are miserable children, and God doesn't give good people a way to live. Suqing was a little tearful. She raised her head. After a while, she saw that the leader of Zhong village was wiping his tears with his sleeves, so she said, Uncle Zhong, you go back first. But I need you to help me do something. Uncle Zhong wiped his tears quickly when he heard it. You said that I will cooperate with you fully. From now on, you will have the final say in the village, and I and the people in the village will help you. I can still work for a few more years, and I can climb the mountain several times. Suqing smiled and said, from now on, you will still have the final say on the village. But I have some ideas that I may want you to cooperate with. I know you are literate. Please help me make a list first. The remaining population in the village, how many households there are, how many people are left in each household, what age they are, what they are good at, and what they did for a living in the past. Please help me make a personnel file of Beijing. I can use it. The Zongjai leader was stunned when he heard this. Although he knew everyone in the village well, when he heard that Suqing wanted such a detailed personnel file, he felt that she was someone who knew how to manage people. He used to manage the stockade and never thought of registering such a file. Sure enough, I have seen it outside. It seems that Master Ma has chosen the right person. The leader of Zongjai happily agreed and wanted to go out. Suqing stopped him again, Uncle Zhong, you will ask Xiu'er to come over and have dinner with us later, saying that Xiaobao misses her. Hey, I'll tell her. Uncle Zhong wiped his tears and turned around and strode down the mountain. Seeing Uncle Zhong walking vigorously on the mountain road, looking strong and healthy, Suqing smiled. He called Cypress over again. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 184. When Bai Shu came over, Suqing stared at him. She hadn't looked at the cypress tree much before hearing Uncle Zhong talk about him and Xiu'er. At first, I thought he was a shy and somewhat dull young man. Later, she climbed the mountain with him to escape, supporting each other all the way up and down the mountain, to Gongzi County, and to Renzhou. She gradually felt that he was much more cheerful. Later, he followed his godfather into the mountains for some training. When he saw him again, he felt that he had undergone some new changes. When I see him again now, I find that he has turned into the cypress who talks little. It's just that his face is a little more fortified and forbearing. Sister Su, look for me. Suqing shook her head and came back to her senses. Nodding towards him. I remember the last time we went to the valley in Muwa village, we spent one night. It should have been 4 or 5 hours, right? Cypress shook his head. It was because it was night, and we were afraid that others would find out, so we kept taking detours, and we had Xiaobao with us, so we took a lot of time. If we went during the day, it would have taken less than 2 hours. Does Sister Su want to go there? Su Qingyu nodded. I need someone to bring the letter there. Calculating this, can we come back and forth in one day? Yes. If we set off early in the morning, we can return to the village before lunch. That's good. What about the other villages? You know I have 28 villages in my hands. I've shown you those villages. How long is the distance from our village? Can we go back and forth in one day? The terrain in this mountain is really complex. Although Su Qingyu has a distribution map, she cannot estimate the time required. Then I heard Bai Shu say, the villages near Muwa village are not far away. You can go back and forth in one day. Among the 28 villages, I don't know most of them and have never been to them. Su Qingyu nodded. She thought to herself, with these 28 villages in her hands, she couldn't just go there herself if something happened. We still need to establish a communication channel. These days, communication can only rely on writing letters, and there is not even a post station for writing letters. You can't run horses or oxen in this mountain, you can't even pull a cart. To contact other villages, we can only rely on human communication. There are no homing pigeons to raise, which is really frustrating. No wonder even the police officers don't want to go into the mountains to collect taxes. Then he said, in this case, I have a rough distribution map of the 28 villages. You can take it back and have a look. You can help me find some people in the villages who are willing to work with you to send messages to each village. Finally, it's good for men. Even women who are familiar with the mountain roads can ensure their own safety. I need you to send messages to various villages. Yes. In addition, you should go to the Zhone village master and inform him, asking him to call those who can write in the village to come to me. Okay, Cypress responded. Su Qingyu missed the printer a little bit. She only needs to write one document, then print 27 copies and stamp them. Do you want her to write 28 copies herself now? I also need to write calligraphy. Either I can't write, or I have too many words and my writing speed is slow. This obviously affects work efficiency. Crazy. In the first step of management, Su Qingyu planned to create a file and card first. First, he would make a census of each village and register the types of personnel before arranging work. If she had to do it herself, she would only do this one thing, and there would be no need to do anything else. The villages in this mountain are far away from each other, there is no fast communication, and the transportation is not convenient. Someone in Beijiazai can roar from the top of the mountain, and the villagers living halfway up the mountain and at the foot of the mountain can probably hear it. But to send orders to other villages, we had to climb mountains and ridges. Headache. Beishu left Su Qingyu's place halfway up the mountain and headed towards the home of Zongjai Master. On the road, I met Jiu who was walking to Su Qing's house after listening to the Zongjai leader's words. Then he stopped in a daze. As for Xiu'er, she only stared at the road under her feet. It has been almost 2 months since Su Qingyu and her son left the village, and she missed them. Especially Xiaobao, I wonder if he still remembers me. Xiu'er walked with her mouth raised, and from time to time she glanced at the dried pheasant in her hand. I plan to cook meat for Xiaobao later. Xiu'er paused, looked around, and saw Cypress standing on the mountain road, staring at her with burning eyes. She subconsciously wanted to hide. Cypress saw her intention, rushed over in a few steps, and grabbed her arm. Why are you avoiding me? I don't. You have it, you obviously have it. Then why don't you dare to look at me? Cypress was a little stubborn. Upon hearing this, Xiu immediately raised her head and looked at him. Are you okay? I'm still anxious to go to Sister Sue's place. Seeing Bai Shu staring at her, her eyes drifted a little. Xiu, I will not break off the engagement. I will only recognize you in this life. Xiu was a little panicked. I told Grandpa that I wanted to break off the engagement. You can find another one. Xiu struggled twice but couldn't break away. No, I'm sure of you. No, I don't want it. Xiu struggled to break free of his hand and ran away. Xiu. Cypress chased for 2 steps and suddenly stopped. He had to take his time and not scare her. He watched her gradually disappear at the other end of the road, then turned and walked towards the village owner's house. Xiu ran with tears flying all the way. I spent a long time sorting out my thoughts outside the house halfway up the mountain before going in. Sister Su, Xiaobao, I'm here, she shouted happily. Su Qingyu came out of the backyard with Xiaobao in her arms, and saw her happily reaching out to Xiaobao. Smiled. He took the dried chicken from her hand and handed Xiaobao to her. Seeing her teasing Xiaobao happily, he was about to ask her, but he saw her eyes were red, so he stopped. I don't know if I saw the cypress trees when I came here. He just talked to her about some gossip. Xiaobao, do you still remember Aunt? Call me Aunt. Auntie Xiaobao called her obediently. Xiu was so happy. Auntie will save all the eggs and meat for our little treasure to eat from now on, okay? Our little treasure couldn't eat meat in the village before. It's really pitiful. Su Qingyu saw Xiaobao grinning happily at Xiu as soon as he heard about the delicious food. Glared at him. He smiled and said, how pitiful is he? In Renzo, he ate delicious food every day, his belly was bulging, and he never stopped talking. Everyone who saw him fed him. Everyone said that he suffered hardships with the adults. Xiu nodded, it's not hard. Our little treasure is only so small. He is running around with the adults and can't even eat. Auntie will cook meat for you later. It's pheasant meat from the mountain. It's delicious. Xiaobao's eyes brightened and he clapped his little hands. Eat. It's delicious. Xiu was so happy. Okay, I'll make it for you later. The big one and the small one were talking quite lively on the side. When it was time to eat, with Xiu helping and Siyuan helping, the Lu mother and daughter were not in a hurry during their first meal. Finally, the pot is boiling and it's warm. The group happily ate their first meal in the village. There is no distinction between master and servant, everyone sits at the same table. Although Lu's mother and daughter and Siyuan wanted to refuse, Su Qingyu first thought that it was not troublesome enough to make 2 kinds of rice and divide it into 2 portions. Everyone would eat in 2 places and wash the dishes twice. She herself didn't have that kind of distinction between master and servant. Everyone sat together, and there were people watching Xiaobao for her, and she still had time to eat a few mouthfuls of food. Su Qingyu glanced at Xiaobao and saw him turning his head to take a bite of the rice fed by Xiu, while putting the big chicken drumstick in his hand into his mouth, biting it deliciously, and his hands were full of oil. Attracted the attention of everyone at the table. Everyone was enjoying their meal while watching him. After the winter, Xiaobao has to be allowed to eat by himself. Su Qingyu thought. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bajia 11U. Chapter 185. Just after dinner, the leader of Zhone village came and brought 2 old people from the village. Read. Ms. Su. Uncle Zhone, please call me by my name from now on, so we can get closer. Okay, Qing Lao. These 2 are old people in the village. They can recognize some rough characters and can also write. But not much. Oh, By the way, Xiu'er can also recognize some characters. Xiu'er nodded beside her. Sukingyu nodded towards her and greeted the two old men. I can't help but feel a little worried. She knew that not many people were literate these days, and she expected that there wouldn't be many people in the village who were literate. Living in this big mountain, going out to study means climbing over mountains and ridges. She was mentally prepared, but she didn't expect that only 4 people in the entire village could read. How to carry out this work? No one can read, and no one else can read the big character posters they write. Crazy. Seeing her frowning, the 2 old men were a little uneasy. We don't know many words. Sukingyu came back to her senses and reassured, it's okay, I have some documents to convey to the village leaders. You just need to copy what I wrote. Can you all write? Yes, the 2 old men breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Sukingyu also breathed a sigh of relief. If she couldn't copy it, then she really had nothing to do. Miss, we both know some words and can help you, Ma Si-yuan said quickly from the side. Sukingyu glanced to the side, slapped her forehead, and missed these 2 people. These 2 people were from the same village. The village was massacred, and they were hidden by the adults in the family and survived. Later, he was rescued by his godfather, and he has been following him ever since. I learned some boxing and kicking skills and read some books. The godfather left the 2 of them with her, probably because he didn't want their family bloodline to be cut off. Okay, you guys also count. Then call everyone to the meeting hall. She first wrote a document, then asked everyone to copy it, and finally stamped it with her seal. After everyone sat down to copy, Beishu also arrived with others. In the meeting hall, when Xiu'er saw him coming, Ji-lu hid in the room, which made Baishu's eyes darken. Sister Su, these people are willing to deliver letters to other villages. Sukingyu nodded. I glanced at these 20 or so people. There are no women. She expected it. She wants the women to straighten their backs, but it may take them a long time to do so. Sukingneo counted 22. Young and old alike. Then he said to them, thank you for your willingness to go. There may be some villages that you have never been to, but it doesn't matter. You can ask people from the nearby villages to lead you there. If you don't know the way, just ask. These 28 everyone in this village is one, so no one will make trouble for you. If you have any problems, just go to the village owner nearby and ask for help. Yes. Besides, I won't call you in vain. I'll hire you at 15 cents a day. No, Sister Su, we don't need it. Master Su, no need. From now on, those who are older than me will call me sister, and those who are younger than me will call me sister. Don't be too polite. The village regulations have not been formulated yet. Now I need your help. If I delay your work, I will pay you. Just take it easy and help me with your heart. More than 20 people looked at each other and finally agreed. Seeing that they responded, Sukingyu spoke again. In the future, I may often send messages to various villages. You must find out the road clearly on this trip and find a safe, easy, and shortest way out. In the future, when the village regulations are formulated, I may hire you on a long-term basis, and I will also give you some fixed wages. In the future, there will be many things in the village that require manpower, so please pay attention to this time. I will also test your skills. Ability. This time, I need you to deliver a message, and secondly, you need to explore the way. Pay more attention to the surroundings. For example, if there are any other unnamed villages, or there are no villages but people live in them, or special topography, write them down and report back. Give me. Yes. Okay, then you go back and be prepared. If the road is far, bring enough water and dry food. There are wild animals on the road, and there are many unknown situations. You must take precautions and come back immediately after delivering the letter. There are still things for you to do in the village. Tomorrow please come here early in the morning to get your paperwork. Yes. Seeing that they all understood, Sukingyu asked everyone to disperse. More than 20 people came out of Suqing's house, all feeling a little dizzy. Beishu, Madam Su said just now, do you want to pay us wages? 15 cents a day. A young man came close to Baishu and said, Brother Baishu, is what Sister Su said true? Do you really pay us wages? I have never touched a copper plate in my life. Someone else squeezed over and asked, she also said she would hire us for a long time in the future, right? Doesn't that mean that we, like people outside, have monthly income? It would be great if this is the case. I can save money for the bride price. Some people wonder, what will we do in the future? Beishu pushed away the people of all sizes who were crowding in front of him, and rolled his eyes at them. Sister Su holds 28 villages in her hands, how can she have nothing to do? Do things well this time, and then good things will happen in the future. It's up to you. If it fails, just wait and see someone else get paid. That's not possible. We must get things done this time. How difficult is it to send a letter? We are very familiar with the mountain roads. All afternoon, Sukingneo watched the Zhone village master and several others copying documents, while she herself was thinking about some village rules. As the saying goes, there is no circle without rules. A set of rules and systems must be formulated for everyone to implement according to the system. Otherwise, it will be like a piece of loose sand, with orders being changed day by day and nothing going forward. After completing the first step of setting up personnel files and cards, we need to consider the defense of the village. Safety is the first priority. Safety cannot be guaranteed. From time to time, I worry that bandits will invade and seize the village and seize women. I am so nervous that I cannot do anything well. The further development is to make wedding clothes for others. 26 documents were written by 6 people and copied quickly. Sukingyu took it over and looked at it. The leader of Zongjai rubbed his hands in embarrassment next to her. Sukingyu didn't know what to say either. This character can be big or small, thick or thin. The way it is written is really unique. But considering that the village is currently at this level, we can't be too demanding. Suddenly I thought, well, what if all the village leaders don't know how to read? Didn't she work all afternoon in vain? Sweat breaks out on forehead. Ma Siyuan glanced at Ma Siyuan and said to the two of them, this document is not long. You two, memorize them. You will also go with me tomorrow. If there are illiterate village leaders, just dictate it to them. Yes, the two of them took the documents and began to read silently. Early the next morning, 22 people, together with Ma Siyuan and Ma Siyuan, stood in front of the meeting hall. Sukingyu took the document and read it sentence by sentence, asking everyone to remember it and memorize it. When the time comes, the village leader who is illiterate will dictate it to them. Ask them to work in pairs and look out for each other on the way. After explaining some more things, they were allowed to set off. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 186. After the team set off, Sukingyu told mother and daughter Lu that one was busy with housework and tidying up the backyard, and the other was taking care of the little treasure. She was planning to go to the village with Master Zhong to take a look. After the Zongjai leader arrived, the two of them walked along the mountain and watched. Have the families of the casualties in the stockade been accommodated? The leader of Zongjai sighed, it's a natural disaster or a man-made disaster. We all felt sad for a while and then let it go. After all, the living people still have to continue living. This time, almost every family suffered losses, and a few families even became extinct. The leader of Zongjai felt like crying again when he talked about Juihu's home. Sukingneo was also a little sad. Those women, she said with some difficulty. Those who have families, some women can't think about it, gone. Some are taken back by their families and still live as usual. It's not easy to marry a woman in our mountains, and it's not what the woman wants. Men even protect their own women. No, do you still want to make irresponsible remarks? Those who are not married may be able to do it for a while. Sukingyu understood. They need time to heal the pain and time to forget. Just like Xiu'er, it's not easy to get out of it. Not all men don't mind if they are unmarried and encounter this kind of thing. For marriage, you may have to find a widower. Sukingyu sighed and asked him again, how many households are left in the village and how many people are there? The leader of Zhong village calmed down and said, our village was originally a big village, but we had no land to build houses, so we created Muwa village. Now there are less than 100 households left, and the population is still 245. There are 75 men between the ages of 16 and 55. Sukingyu nodded, okay. Uncle Zhong, please make the census as soon as possible. I have something else to ask them to do. Can you give it to me tomorrow? Yes. I'll give it to you tomorrow morning. Good. The two of them walked and talked. We visited the homes of each villager to learn about their living conditions and livelihood. There are some people whose lives are really difficult, and only the old, young and orphans are left. Sukingyu also noted them down and classified them as needy households. We may focus on these families in the future. They are all part of the village, no one can be left out. She feels that her job is a bit like the village party secretary, who first inspects, then plans, and then organizes and mobilizes. Next, we may have to do public security work, develop collective resources, and coordinate relations between all parties. It's just that the village party secretary still has money to take, so she just wastes her brain and energy. The mountain climbed so hard that she almost collapsed to the ground. Uncle Zhong looked at her with a smile, aren't you used to it? Our mountain is quite high, about 400 to 500 feet high. The mountains next door are even higher. Sukingyu held her knees, gasping for air, and raised her head with difficulty to glance at the top of the mountain. So high. It's not an easy job. If you climb a few times a day, your elephant legs can turn into stick legs. What can be done? Then climb. Who asked her to talk big and take this job from Ma Mingwen? After walking all morning, we finally visited nearly 100 households. Sukingyu originally had some ideas, but she couldn't walk anymore. Waved his hand, Uncle Zhong, please go back first. Have lunch and rest for an hour, and then we will walk around in the afternoon. The two separated and Sukingyu returned to her residence. Xiaobao flew towards her, stuck his head on her thigh and stopped talking. What's going on? You're so happy to see your mother that you don't even want to talk. Sukingyu's heels felt like they were filled with lead, but she still picked up her son when he saw that he was having a tantrum. Ruyi, who followed, smiled and said, I've been looking for you several times, and you want us to take him to you. If we don't take him, we'll be speechless. Sukingyu pulled Xiaobao out of her shoulder, Mom has gone to do some work. Besides, Xiaobao, look, this mountain is so high, isn't it? Mom wants to walk. If I want to hug you, I won't be able to walk. Look, my mother's legs are almost broken and she won't be able to hold the baby anymore. Sukingyu teased him. When Xiaobao heard this, he was frightened. He looked down at her legs, struggled to get out of her arms, knelt down and beat her legs with his fists. Sukingyu was deeply moved. I feel extremely lucky that I wanted him and gave birth to him in the first place. With this child, her life is no longer hopelessly black and white. Sukingyu led him around the courtyard. I found that Lu had already planted seeds in the backyard. Ridge after ridge, very neat. Your mother moves very quickly. Ruyi smiled, my mother is good at working in the fields. Let her plow the ground and plant seeds. She is happy. In the governor's mansion, she doesn't know where to put her hands and feet. Are you two still used to living in the mountains? Get used to it. My mother and I like this kind of peaceful life. And it's similar to our previous life. My mother and I like it very much. In the morning, several sisters-in-law and aunts came to talk to my mother and gave us a lot of things. They lent us hoes and shovels to grow vegetables and wild things, and the people in the village were very enthusiastic. That's good. From now on, you and your mother will get along more with the people in the village and build a good relationship with them. After all, we are from outside. If we want to integrate into the village, we must have a good relationship with them. Ruyi nodded, yes. We understand. My mother couldn't speak a few words in the governor's mansion for 10.5 months. Here, all morning, I only heard my mother's voice. Lu was about to come and ask them to eat. Hearing this, he also smiled and said, Ruyi and I are very comfortable here. We both like it here. We all have the same status here. We don't hide our words when talking, and it's easy to get along with them. That's good. Seeing that they adapted well, Sukingyu felt relieved. After dinner, Sukingneo put Xiaobao to sleep and continued to visit the village with Master Zhong. There are various houses built along the mountain in the village, including thatched houses, wooden houses, brick houses, civil structure houses, and stilted buildings made of bamboo. Various. The mountain people hid in the mountains from various places for various reasons, with different origins and different nationalities. Although it has been integrated for several generations, some living habits of the ancestors are still retained. Some have left and right wings in the front yard and backyard, some are built high, with people living above and raising livestock below, or people living below, with granaries above, all kinds of things. There were some homeless people whose houses were empty and no one lived in them, or who had moved out and their rooms were vacant, or they lived far away from everyone. Sukingyu had some ideas. There are some houses that are no longer occupied. The village can take them back and see if they can be used for other purposes. Those who live far away from us, Uncle Zhong, ask them if they want to move to live closer to us. There are a lot of wild animals in the mountains. If you are bitten by a wild animal at night, you will not be able to save it in time. If a patrol team is set up, it will be difficult to manage if you live too far. Uncle Zhong nodded repeatedly after hearing this, okay. I will tell them. I will have the empty house tidied up. Good. The two of them looked around the entire village. It was seen that the villagers used the flat terrain to plant various crops and reclaim some land, but the utilization rate was not very high. Moreover, after the bandits took over this time, they ate almost all the vegetables in the field. Sukingyu said, now we have to let everyone replant some vegetables, otherwise we may not have anything to eat in the winter. There may not be enough seeds. Uncle Zhong was a little embarrassed. Sukingyu said, I'll ask someone to go out and buy it, then go to the governor's office and ask them to help find a solution. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 187. Sukingyu walked around the stockade for 3 days and finally figured out the situation in the stockade. I also got the personnel files of Beijiezai. A file was created for the population of Beijiezai. Then he sent people to Renzhou and nearby Gongzi and other counties and villages to collect some grain and various seeds. She patrolled the village during the day and formulated various rules and regulations at night. After the people she sent out to deliver messages to the village owners came back one after another, the seeds were also bought back. She asked the Zhong village master to arrange for distribution to each family. I picked up some cold-resistant vegetables and planted them. He also ordered the women in the village to go up the mountain to pick wild vegetables, collect all the vegetables that could be harvested from the fields, and make them into dried vegetables to prepare for the winter. In previous years, there were some ways to survive the winter in the village, and every family had their own ideas about storing food. For example, making dried vegetables, bacon, etc. There is a shortage of food and vegetables in the mountains, but the most important thing is meat. There are meat sticks hanging under the eaves of every house. Sukingyu felt a little excessive when she looked at it. The children in the village had no food or snacks to eat. Sukingyu often saw the children taking meat sticks as snacks, nibbling on dried meat while walking. For farmers who haven't seen meat once a month outside, it's a bit of a luxury. And the people in the village never thought of exchanging meat for something else. Sukingyu had some ideas after looking at it. She was going to take some meat outside in exchange for other food. As for those unoccupied houses, Sukingyu, who seemed to be doing fine, stayed in them. It was no longer habitable, so Sukingyu planned to turn it into a greenhouse and grow some vegetables. There are also many caves in the mountains. I wonder if I can grow vegetables in the caves by picking up some soil. Sukingyu planned to give it a try. Uncle Jean was shocked when he heard her order. Greenhouse? Growing vegetables in the house? It seems that there is some truth to it. Just growing vegetables in a cave? Is this possible? Whether it works or not, you will know after you try it. In previous years, the village had prepared food and vegetables for the winter early, but now hundreds of bandits have almost eaten them all. If we don't think of a way, everyone will almost have nothing to eat in winter. Zongjai leader was dubious, he had never tried it. Is it really possible to grow vegetables in the house or in a cave? Sukingyu didn't know if it would work. She didn't know how cold the winter was in the mountains and whether the vegetables could survive. But how will you know if it works if you don't try it? As a result, the men and women in the village started to move, and they were even busier than spring planting and autumn planting. A vibrant scene. The 27 village owners who came as promised were amazed. After they asked the villagers about the situation, they all gathered around Sukingyu. That's not okay, Mrs. You can't treat Beijiazai differently just because you live in Beijiazai and ignore our other villages. There is no food in our village. Yes, us too. Mrs. When will you come to our place? The chatter was so noisy that Sukingyu's head was buzzing. Don't worry, didn't I invite you all here? Since everyone is here, please come to the council hall to discuss matters. So 28 village owners gathered in the meeting hall. Sukingyu has asked the carpenters in the village to make enough chairs to ensure that everyone can sit down. She sat in the front seat, with Ma Si-yuan next to her taking notes. She intentionally brought Jiu'er with her and arranged for her to play the role of assistant, but Jiu'er didn't know much about reading and couldn't do clerical work. I can only take her with me and let her learn to do other small tasks first, such as passing messages and obeying orders. She needs a right hand, an assistant, and paperwork. 28 villages cannot be managed by her alone, she will go crazy. What Sukingyu had asked these village owners to do before was to count the population and carry out detailed management of personnel files and cards. This time, these village owners brought over the personnel files of each village. Sukingyu flipped through it first, and seeing that they all did a good job, she nodded in approval. One by one, the village masters also listened to each of the village owners talk about the personnel in their own village and the situation of the village. After understanding the population issue, we began to discuss major issues. Now that the 28 villages have been invested under Ma Mingwen's name, they are all one body and have the same interests. They are a big alliance and are no longer isolated. Sukingyu put forward the alliance's statement, and everyone agreed. As a result, the 28 villages alliance was established today. Since there is such an organization, there must be corresponding systems and regulations. The purpose of calling everyone here today is to discuss this. Sukingyu called everyone together this time. Firstly, he wanted to see the personnel files of each village, and secondly, he wanted to discuss the emergence of this alliance, its rules and regulations, and its subsequent development. As for this alliance, its purpose is to unite the 28 villages, ensure the safety of the villages, and promote the economic development of the villages. Do you agree with this purpose? Although everyone was still a little confused for a moment, Sukingyu's words were easy to understand and everyone understood. Everyone agrees. This was the original purpose of submitting a letter of surrender to Ma Mingguan. It's just that what they want is peace, and Sukingyu added one to promote economic development. She can't do thankless things. And things without interests cannot bring all parties together. Seeing that everyone agreed, Sukingyu added, "From now on, I will be the president of this alliance, and everyone here is a director. In the future, if there are major issues in the alliance, everyone will discuss and decide together. If more than half of them pass, it can be implemented." Everyone agreed. In addition, in the past, the village leader had the final say in the village, which I think is not conducive to management. Now the village master may have to go to the alliance for meetings from time to time to participate in decision-making on major issues, so when the village master is away, the village cannot be empty. Control. So I suggest that each village leader promotes 2 more people to serve as his deputies. One is to have someone to share the work, and the other is to prevent the village from running smoothly when the village leader is away, so that no one can be found. This time everyone was not so quick to express their stance. All the village leaders below gathered together and started talking. Some people feel that the president is afraid that they alone will dominate and find someone to divide him. Some people think it would be nice to have someone share their work. After all, sometimes they are not in the village, and there are indeed many things that cannot be dealt with. Sometimes they go into the mountains for several days. It lasts for about 10 days. Sukingyu was not in a hurry and waited quietly. In the end, everyone agreed to promote 2 people in the village to work together. Anyway, you should not avoid relatives when promoting talents. The president didn't say he couldn't use his own people. The village leaders thought about the candidates in their hearts, and then they all nodded in agreement. The matter was thus settled. Sukingyu glanced down. "Next time you come to the league for a meeting, bring the list of deputies." Yes, the village leaders responded one after another. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bajia 11U. Chapter 188. After the personnel matters are settled, the main event comes next. Read. But for fear of causing a backlash, Sukingyu decided to throw a brick wall first. In addition, in the future, if everyone works for the alliance, it will delay their own affairs. Considering this, the alliance will consider giving everyone here a fixed monthly payment. You can think of it as a salary. Ah! Is there Dailu? Give us monthly payment? Really? Really pay monthly money? There was a lot of discussion below. Even the village leader who was reluctant to promote candidates just now became excited. Sukingyu glanced down indifferently. Yes. But we still have to discuss the specific amount. And whether we give more or less is determined by the economy of our alliance. If the alliance has more money, we will give out more. If we have less money, we will give out more, it's just less hair. Will the alliance have money? Where will the money come from? They whispered to each other and looked at Sukingyu. Sukingyu breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that the matter had finally turned to this point. After everyone's discussion subsided, he said, "Of course, a portion of the money and grain will be collected from each village on a monthly basis and used as monthly payment for everyone." Ah, do you have to pay monthly for food? There was another discussion below. Still have to pay for food? Pay every month? How is this different from the taxes we pay to the government? Some people are not happy in their hearts. They have never paid taxes to the government before. Some people frown directly. And some people think this should be the case. How can you just think about stuffing it in your pocket and not think about paying for it? After all, everyone has submitted letters of submission. Master Ma sent people to protect the village and specially asked Madame Su to manage it. There may be other people coming in the future. If they don't give some benefits to Master Ma and some benefits to Madame Su, why should they stay here? Are you uncomfortable living in the city? Come into the mountains to do these thankless jobs. Some village owners then spoke, it should be done. I'm just muttering in my heart, I don't know how much to collect, I can't help but beat the drum in my heart, don't collect too much, it will be no different from bandits. The leader of Zhong village and the leader of Kun village of Muhua village looked at each other. They felt that MRSU might have something more to say. So I didn't talk to everyone. Sure enough, I heard Su Qingyu say, Ping Bai wants to collect money and food from you, I think everyone must feel uncomfortable. They didn't dare to say anything if they felt uncomfortable, so they all shook their heads and waved their hands, no, no collecting money and food is what you should do. Su Qing glanced at the village leader with different expressions below, and then spoke calmly. First of all, I invite you here this time, firstly, to count the population and number of strong men in each village, and secondly, after this meeting, I will ask you to do the second thing. Please feel free to ask, President. The second thing is, after you go back, please find someone who is familiar with the mountain roads and is willing to go into the mountains. Arrange for people to go into the mountains to check all the properties around your village. For example, what are the trees on the mountains? Are there any very old ones? Which herbs, wild vegetables, fungi, and wild animals must be carefully counted? Whichever village has the most varieties will receive additional rewards. 15 days later, we will still be here. The village owners will come back here with their products, such as tree leaves, various fungi, various herbs, furs of wild animals, etc., which can be proved. I will count the production of each village to make next plans. For example, how to convert these products into money, how to expand the output of these products, and how to collect the money and grain from the monthly alliance. Wait for half a month and come back here to make statistics. Then I will arrange the next step. Change it into money. Expand production. When the village owners heard this, their hearts felt hot. Who doesn't like money? Suddenly his body straightened up. Su Qingyu added, in the future, the annual membership fee to be paid to the association will be determined based on the village's output and population. These membership fees will then be used for future expenses of the league and each village. It will be kept by a dedicated person. In the future, people from each village will be asked to do work, and they will also pay wages. For example, this time I asked 24 men from Beijiazai to deliver letters to the owners of each village. Those who climbed mountains and ridges would have to work hard on the way, and they might encounter wild animals. There is a certain risk, so I give them a wage that is 5 cents higher than what is paid outside, and I promise to pay them 15 cents a day. Do you think this payment should be given, and is it reasonable? The village owners nodded one after another, it should be given, it's reasonable. It's good to have a unified opinion. It should be given. After all, if they don't go, they will have things to do at home. If they go hunting in the mountains, maybe they can get some money in exchange for the prey, Uncle Zhong said. Uncle Kun also nodded in agreement. Seeing that no one was suspicious, Su Qingyu felt relieved. So, the wages of these 24 people like this time will be paid by the meeting in the future. Isn't anyone suspicious? No, no, it should be. That's right, it should be like this, otherwise no one will do it for you. And you can't let the president do it alone, Uncle Kun said. Su Qingyu glanced at him with a smile and nodded at him. Then he said, I know that every village has suffered losses this time, and it may be difficult to collect money and food from everyone, so I will pay for it first, and wait until the situation of each village improves next year before collecting it. Okay, okay. Okay, okay, that's good, that's good. Many village owners breathed a sigh of relief. Many people died in the village this time, and collecting money and food from the villagers might cause a backlash. They can't do it themselves. And they can't provide money or food. When the village leaders heard that they would not be charged money or grain this time, and that the president would take care of it, they felt happy in their hearts, with extremely sincere smiles on their faces. Sukingyu saw it and said nothing. She understands in her heart. I don't think anyone will feel comfortable if they just ask people to take out the money without seeing any benefits. At this time, it is impossible to get the 28 village leaders to be united. If you want to win people's hearts, you have to take your time. There is no such thing as one step. After there is no doubt about the membership dues, it will be much easier to discuss other matters. Then comes the first important thing after the alliance building meeting. Sukingyu then said, this time the bandits occupied the village, each village must have suffered varying degrees of losses. The villagers are probably also worried. Therefore, the safety of each village is the first priority. Next it is necessary to set up gates, fences, and observation towers at the entrances of each stockade, and arrange for people to guard the stockade day and night to do a good job in the defense of the stockade. This is good, this is good. We support. Everyone unanimously agreed to this proposal. Sukingyu ranked the construction time of 28 villages according to the different levels of danger, from the villages relatively outside the village to the villages in the middle of the mountain. Beijiazai is put first. It is also convenient for her to fill in the gaps and check for leaks. She decided to resolve the major defense issues in each village before winter. It also allows the villagers to spend the winter with peace of mind. After winter and spring, we can fully engage in production. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 189. If everyone unanimously agrees on the first major issue of the alliance meeting, then the rest of the work will be easy to carry out. Sukingyu made specific arrangements. Winter is coming soon, and time is tight and tasks are heavy. Therefore, the entire village needs to be mobilized this time. Please go back to each village owner and select 30 strong laborers in the village to come to help in the order just decided. The first batch of 4 villages start construction at the same time. Once the second batch is completed, we will focus on building the second batch of villages. All labor is paid 10 cents a day. It is voluntary and cannot be forced. For each village where the work is done, the village owner must arrange the accommodation for everyone. For the villages that have not been arranged, we can prepare the preliminary work first, such as logging, leveling the land, etc. The defense of the village was the top priority, and every village owner felt passionate about it and responded immediately without any objection. Before, when they encountered wild animals or bandits entering the mountains, they would hide in the mountains. They never thought about building village gates, digging trenches, or arranging people on duty. Now that the president has brought it up, everyone responds immediately. Originally, each village had more people than others, some were big villages and some were small. No one could do this even if they wanted to, but now with the young and strong labor force from 28 villages, we will definitely be able to do it. The village owners were so excited that they wanted to go back to the village immediately to arrange this matter. Then I heard Sukingyu say, this defense work must be taken seriously, it is related to the safety of the entire village. Each village needs to arrange 30 young and strong laborers, and they will be arranged by the alliance. There are 840 people, 28 villages, 4 villages in one batch, are divided into 7 batches, which means that one village has 210 laborers starting work at the same time. Adding the manpower of the entire village, it must be completed within 7 working days. Because the Chinese New Year is coming soon, we can't delay the construction. Yes. We must personally supervise and never delay the construction. The 28 village owners clapped their chests and loudly promised. I was excited and happy at the same time. I could hardly sit still and wanted to go back to the village immediately to arrange this matter. 200 to 300 people built the village gate, dug trenches, and built observation towers. It was a lot of tasks, but there was also a lot of manpower. If you work hard, it should be completed. Su Qingyu and the leader of Zongjai have repeatedly calculated that this construction period can be completed. Since the various villages were scattered, it was not easy for everyone to get together, so Su Qingyu wanted to explain everything. It also helps everyone to be prepared. After discussing the security issues of the village, Su Qingyu began to discuss with everyone the development of collective resources and the revitalization of the economy. There's another thing. I'm going to choose a place among these 28 villages to build a market. Build a market. As soon as Su Qingyu finished speaking, everyone started whispering to each other. Su Qingyu glanced down. Then he said, yes, build a market. I walked around Beijia village for a few days and chatted with everyone for a few days. I found that some people have never left the village since they were born and do not know the world outside. Some people we haven't even touched a copper plate. There are treasures everywhere in our green mountains, but we are stuck with the treasures and suffer from poverty. Everyone fell silent. I plan to build a market. I will choose a gentle place that is convenient for the 28 villages to build a large market. In the future, each village will be assigned a shop to sell the local products of each village, so that everyone can freely, if there is any surplus in exchange for daily necessities, the alliance will contact the outside world to help convert these items into money, and then exchange them for other supplies in the village. As soon as Su Qingyu finished speaking, the bottom exploded. The village owners could no longer sit still. Build a market. The same market as outside. Open a shop to sell things. No more traveling over mountains and ridges for days and nights to exchange for daily necessities. Can you buy daily necessities in the mountains? Really? Is this real? They all gathered around Su Qingyu. Everyone was so excited. There was no more whispering, and the discussion was so loud it could knock off the roof. Su Qingyu was so noisy by them that she couldn't even hear what they said. President, there is a large flat area in our village. As soon as a village leader finished speaking, he was pushed away by everyone. How big is your village? President, our village has space, and our place is big. He was squeezed out again. President, we have land and people to build on our side. The village owners are vying to build the market closer to their own villages. Su Qingyu's ears were buzzing, and she pressed it down with her hands. Everyone immediately became quiet and sat back down. Don't be anxious. What if the president becomes impatient and stops the market? They all sat upright. Su Qingyu glanced down. I have to look at the place where the market will be built. I have to go and see the place in person before deciding. There is no rush now. Urgent, they are anxious. After all, the village owners go back this time. Do the second thing I asked you to do well. Be sure to carefully count the products in each village. This is related to our future economic development. If other villages live in the future, Honghuo, your village is miserable, so don't cry in front of me. So, please take it seriously. I will see the products of your village in 15 days. Whichever village has found more will not only get rewards but also other rewards. What reward? Everyone was scratching their heads, but Su Qingyu just didn't say anything. He had no choice but to nod. Okay, President, we will take it seriously. There was a fire in everyone's heart, which made everyone unable to sit still. They wished they could turn around and go back to the village to arrange this matter. Then the first priority in the alliance is to ensure the safety of each village. After each village returns, they will immediately mobilize young and strong laborers to go to each village in the order just arranged. The remaining manpower in the village will be arranged to make preparations first. Prepare the wood and other things you will use. Yes, the village owners all agreed one after another. After discussing the matter for 2 days, we finally made arrangements for the alliance's bylaws and regulations, as well as the subsequent protection matters for each village. The village owners were eager to return to the village to arrange affairs. They all plan to perform well and cannot be compared. Everyone is guessing that the reward may be about the market. So don't be careless, you must take it seriously. This is a major matter that affects whether the entire village can live a good life. For generations, our ancestors have never thought about holding a market. If a market in this mountain was really held, how many people would benefit? We must help the president to get it done. We cannot let the children in the mountains never see what a shop or a copper plate looks like. After the village leaders left, Zongjai Master also knew what he was going to do. Without stopping, he took people with him to check out various unoccupied houses. This time the village owners came for a meeting, and the village arranged for them to live in the homes of villagers, with different conditions. The president secretly reminded him that this kind of thing would happen more often in the future. If the village had a place like an inn, would it be able to bring some income to the village in the future? Sure enough, he has seen the world. This abandoned house can make the president think of making money. The leader of Zongjai suddenly became enlightened, his face glowed, and he immediately made arrangements. The leader of the Zongjai village was very excited, as if he saw that the Beijia village had flourished in his hands and the villagers were living a prosperous life. It is necessary to arrange the construction of village gates and observation towers, to provide accommodation for the strong men in other villages, to solve their food problems, to repair greenhouses, to carry soil from caves, to arrange for people to go into the mountains to cut trees, and to level the land. Zongjai leader finally felt that he alone was not enough. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 190. The leader of Zongjai was so busy that he immediately arranged 2 deputies for himself and gave them instructions repeatedly. Read. Every one of the villagers was given a job, as long as they could talk and move around. No matter how big or small, old or young, male or female. There are not enough manpower. Zongjai Master himself wished he could have more hands. For the first time, he felt that living in the mountains was inconvenient. He felt that the mountain he lived in was a bit too high. He needed to find someone to climb up and down, but it would cost him his life. Young and strong men go into the mountains to cut trees, older men who know the mountain roads go into the mountains to find products, young and strong women level the land, older women carry earth into the caves, level the land, level the greenhouses, raise ridges and plant seeds in the fields to plant various vegetables. The children were busy spreading messages, doing small jobs, delivering meals to the adults, and looking for products in the village. Even when we met on the road, everyone only had time to catch their breath and no time to say hello and chat. Everyone is busy. Everyone in Beijiazai was mobilized. Everyone, men, women, old and young, except for the kid who couldn't walk, was very busy. We were very busy and very happy. Everyone had smiles on their faces every day, and their faces glowed with happiness, and they walked with wind. The vegetables in Lu's backyard have just been planted, but she is never short of vegetables every day. Degree. The kind-hearted villagers were grateful to Sukingnao and brought various vegetables and wild animals to their homes every day. Sukingnao didn't even want it. They just threw it at the door and left. You don't even know who gave it to you. Even firewood was delivered. Mossy Yuan still thought about going into the mountains to collect some firewood, but there was no place for heroes. Sukingyu asked them to go into the mountain, cut some thick bamboos, and connect them into bamboo tubes to bring the spring water from the back mountain to the yard. In this way, there is no need to go to the foot of the mountain to carry water. It's a lot more convenient. The mountains are rich in vegetation and there is no shortage of water resources. Mountain springs are inexhaustible all year round. The mountains are nourished and lush. It's winter, but the mountains are still full of green. Sukingneo breathed the fresh air in the mountains every day, felt the fresh atmosphere in the village, and felt a sense of satisfaction filling her chest. 2 days later, all the strong laborers from each village arrived. Sukingyu went down the mountain to the entrance of the village to check and supervise. The 7-day construction period is really stressful to complete the defensive fortifications. She had to keep an eye on the point, and if the task was difficult, she had to adjust the plan. Fortunately, the leader of Zongjai understood what she meant and quickly divided all the laborers into groups according to various types of work. Sukingyu had previously asked him to divide all defense works into 3 projects. The first is to build the village gate, the second is to build the trench, and the third is to build the observation tower. Divide all the labor into 3 large groups according to 3 projects. Different construction contents are divided into 3 major groups. Different labor work groups are formed according to different construction contents. Let them invest in each construction section in the prescribed order until the entire construction process is completed. This kind of flow operation is, firstly, conducive to improving the proficiency of laborers' work, and secondly, it can fully improve labor productivity. In this way, the quality of the project can be guaranteed, the project time can be saved, and supervision and management can be facilitated. Defects can be checked and corrected at any time, the source of errors can be quickly identified, and responsibilities can be implemented. After the division of labor between Sukingyu and Zongjai leader, it took less than half an hour for each worker to receive their own work and quickly get into work mode. Zongjai master breathed a sigh of relief. These 200 to 300 people suddenly appeared in the village. He couldn't even look at them. He was at a loss and didn't know where to start. He was bald, but fortunately Sukingyu was there to guide him. It was as if he had received an enlightenment. He immediately cleared the clouds and saw the sun, and his brain became much clearer. Following the instructions given by Sukingyu and Zongjai leader, the entire engineering team immediately started moving. The village was immediately in full swing and full of energy. In addition, the whole village had been mobilized 2 days ago. Everyone performed their duties and arranged to clean the rooms. The ants who were responsible for arranging the workers to rest, and the women who were responsible for cooking for the workers were also mobilized. The laborers from each village come to help in the village. We cannot let them sleep or eat poorly in their own village, which will affect the subsequent construction period. Be sure to serve well. If they don't serve well, they might be blamed by Zongjai master and Madame Su, and they themselves will lose face. The little kids in the village were also busy walking around the construction site carrying kettles and cups. Anyone who wanted water would rush over and give them a cup. The service is so attentive. Let all the workers feel that everyone from Beijia village respects them, and their subordinates work even harder. In just half a day, Sukingyu saw that the trench had been dug dozens of meters, the position of the village gate had been leveled, and the foundation had been laid. Very pleased. For the village gate, trenches, and observation towers, Sukingyu drew drawings based on the appearance of later generations. He also invited the Zongjai master and many elders in the village to study and modify them together. Due to limited conditions, there is a shortage of stones and strips, and the village gates are all made of civil structures. Half tamp-lois and half built with wood. It is made to imitate the city wall, with a width of 3 meters and a length of 20 meters. At the bottom is a large gate with 2 smaller gates on both sides. The village gate in the middle is high and wide and cannot be opened easily. Usually, only 2 small village gates on both sides are opened for villagers to enter and exit. The upper level is the observation tower and peak fire tower. There are fences and thorns on both sides of the village gate that extend to the mountains on both sides, forming a closed loop. When Suchingen went to see it the next day, the loess and gravel had been rammed half a meter high. The trench in front of the village gate had been dug hundreds of meters. When she went to see it again on the third day, the base of the village gate had been rammed. The trench had been dug to the foot of the mountain on both sides. The village chief Zhon was watching and wiping his tears. When Suchingen looked again, he saw that he was grinning and touching his beard. This old man was crying and laughing. Suchingen smiled and shook his head. He thought about the various problems encountered in the village in the past few days. More than 200 laborers squeezed into the village at once. Although the number was about the same as the number of thieves who had occupied the village before, the thieves drove the villagers to live in caves at that time, so they could live there. This time, the laborers were arranged to sleep in the homes of various villagers, sleeping in a large bunk bed that could accommodate more than a dozen people, and twice as many people slept. The accommodation conditions were not so good. Sukingmei thought, we have to wait and see, there is no place in the mountain to level out and build some houses. First, to improve the housing conditions of the villagers. Second, in the future, when the village chiefs come to the meeting, they must have good accommodation conditions. Third, the Godfather will also send the injured and retired people to come for retirement. These people need to be accommodated, and they can't always stay in the homes of the villagers. But this matter can't be rushed. Sukingmei plans to consider it after the defense fortifications of the village are completed. But the defense fortifications will be completed soon. The people on duty will be arranged again. But the villagers only have superficial hunting skills. It's okay to set up a sentry. If they really meet the enemy, I'm afraid they can't fight a few moves. It's not okay to build a defense fortification and just show it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha 11U. Chapter 191. When work ended on the sixth day, Sukingneo went to the construction site to take a look. Read. I found that the project was almost completed, and there was only some finishing work left. I estimate that if I work on it for another half day tomorrow morning, it will be completed. When she went to see it again the next day, she found that the wooden fences connecting the two sides of the village gate had been completed and thorns had been planted. The gaps were so small that even pheasants could not get in. I don't know whether it was because Sukingyu was there in person to offer advice and make adjustments from time to time, or because the Zongjai leader commanded it well, or because the entire engineering team was feeling hot and holding back a ball of fire. The entire project was not only completed on schedule, but also to a very good degree. Sukingyu walked around and was very satisfied with the completion of the entire project. According to this progress, the 28 villages can complete the defense works of each village before the new year. Villagers can spend the winter safely. President, I never dreamed that I would be able to see this day, Zongjai leader sighed with emotion behind Sukingneo, his eyes moist. When bandits came to occupy the village, he watched helplessly as so many villagers died in front of his eyes, unable to do anything. He thought he was going to die together with the village. I didn't expect to see the day when Beijiazai built its gate. The gate of this village is really broad and spectacular. The three characters Beijiazai spelled out on hardwood above the village gate made him feel like a fire was burning in his heart. Standing on the city wall above the village gate and looking out from the distance is even more exciting. Qing Lao, thank you, on behalf of all the villagers in our village, thank you. Uncle Zhon, please don't say that. Xiaobao and I also live in the village. Your safety and mine are one and the same. Qing Lao, please stop being modest. If it weren't for you, I don't know when this village gate would be built. We, the villagers, wouldn't be able to build it. Sukingyu agrees with this. Each village works behind closed doors and does not know how to leverage its own strength, so they each close their doors and live their own small lives. There are only 200 to 300 people in a village, so how much labor can there be? To build such a large project requires more than just vision and courage. In order not to affect these workers, they went to the next village. Sukingyu stopped the engineering team at Shenshisu. The remaining finishing work can be done in one day by the villagers of Beijiazai. Sukingyu gathered the workers together and paid them 7 days' wages. Then she stood on a high platform and said a few words to everyone. First, he affirmed everyone's work over the past few days, and then praised them for a job well done. He hoped that they would continue their efforts and build beautiful defenses in other villages. More than 200 workers held hot copper plates and felt excited when they heard the president's words of affirmation to them. I worked for 7 days in a row, but I didn't feel tired at all. After Sukingneo finished speaking, the leader of Zhone village also came up to say a few words of thanks and asked the women in the village to serve them food. This meal was richer than the previous few days and made everyone feel warm. Everyone remembers Beijiazai. The food in Beijiazai is delicious and the villagers are warm and hospitable. I will visit more often if I have the opportunity in the future. 69shux.com. After ordering dinner, while it was still early, more than 200 laborers and 30 strong laborers from Beijiazai set off to the next village. The residents of Beijiazai surrounded the brand new gate and couldn't stop looking at it. From time to time, they would scream and climb up the wall of Zaman to watch. They walked over and over again. The children ran around excitedly and refused to come down no matter how much the adults yelled. Inside the thick village gate, there are 2 rooms on each side. While it was used as a storehouse to store arrows and other things, it was also used as a daily resting place for the night watchman. The leader of Zongjai immediately took a fancy to him and said that he would bring his family's bedding over and he would sleep in the gatekeeper's room from now on. Unexpectedly, it was robbed by many villagers. How can the old village master sleep here and guard the village gate? They're not fresh enough yet. Sukingyu pulled the Zongjai leader out of the crowd. I walked along the village gate with him and looked carefully again, and asked him to let others finish some finishing work. The villagers also had to build the suspension bridge over the trench as soon as possible. The ditch connects the mountains and mountain streams on both sides, and diverts mountain spring water to the ditch to form running water. Looking at the wide trench, Sukingyu felt that it could not be wasted, so she discussed with the Zongjai leader whether they could raise some fish, shrimp, snails, eels, and the like in it. The leader of Zongjai admired Sukingyu so much that he fell to the ground. At the moment, all he could think about was the tall and spectacular gate of the village, but he could look at Madame Su and look at her family. I have already thought of raising fish and shrimp in trenches. The leader of Zongjai was a little embarrassed. Sukingyu turned around and looked at the villagers who were crowded around the village gate, and pulled the village owner away. In half a month, the owners of each village will come over with their products. How is the collection in our village? The Zongjai leader's expression calmed down. He had really forgotten about this matter. Every day before dawn, I would go to the village gate to keep an eye on the progress. I wanted to sleep there at night. I really forgot about that incident. I left it to Bai Zi and Bai Chuan. They took people to do this. I haven't asked him yet. Bai Zi and Bai Chuan are the deputies that Zongjai leader found for him. They were also the 2 old men who came to help Sukingyu copy documents that day, and they were also one of the few literate people in the village. He is about the same age as the Zongjai leader. Sukingyu reminded him whether he should find 2 younger people to be his deputies. Young people have ideas, and more importantly, they have strong physical strength. But after considering it, the Zhone village chief still decided on these 2. He said that the 2 of them could read, and although they were old, they had enough experience, so he let them work for a year first. Sukingmei didn't say anything. Then you should find out the situation quickly. This is related to the future economy of the village. It must be taken seriously. Yes, the Zhone village chief nodded in response. In addition, you should also go to the cave and the greenhouse to ask the ants in charge whether the soil and fertilizer have been applied enough, whether the soil is thick enough, what the temperature is, and whether it will affect the germination of seeds. The Zhone village chief nodded while taking a charcoal pencil to write in the small notebook he carried with him. This small notebook and charcoal pencil were obtained from Su Qingmei. When Su Qingmei instructed Ma Siyuan and Ma Siyuan to do something, she would ask them to write it down, cut the rice paper into small notebooks for them, and made charcoal pencils for them to record. Su Qing'an wanted to promote Jiu'er as her assistant, but Jiu'er didn't know much, so she had to keep the two brothers with her. After seeing this, Lord Zonghan flattered Su Qing'an and asked for a set, and also kept it with him to record at any time. From the initial awkwardness to now being able to keep up with Su Qing'an's speaking speed and write things down quickly. He is old, and this notebook and charcoal pencil are the most suitable for him. When there are many things to do, he often forgets about something after doing one thing. This charcoal pencil and small notebook are his most precious things now. His two assistants wanted to grab it, but they couldn't. They wanted him to ask Su Qing'an for 2 more copies, but he didn't dare to ask. Just let them prepare it themselves. As Su Qing'an spoke, he glanced at Lord Zongjai and saw him recording quickly. He smiled and said, "There is one more thing. Now that our village gate has been built, you can walk around the village more and find some places to move out when you have time. I told you before that we should build some houses in the village, and we should also put it on the agenda," he said. "I estimate that my godfather will send people here before winter or after spring. It will be bad if there is no place to live by then." The leader of the Zhone village quickly wrote down, "Yes, I will arrange it immediately." In addition, the defense works have been completed, and people must be arranged for duty. All those over 16 years old and under 55 years old in the village must be arranged. Take some time to mobilize the people in the village and arrange the duty. Yes, this is a big deal. It can't be forgotten. The leader of the Zhonghan village made a big mark in the notebook. "Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bha 11U. Chapter 192. Although the matter was left to the Zongjai master, Su Qingyu had no intention of just sitting back and watching. Read. She was the one who talked about using greenhouses and caves to grow vegetables. She also wanted to see the effect. In order to promote it in various villages and provide experience for future winters. Therefore, after the fortifications of the village were completed, being able to eat fresh vegetables in winter was her top priority. Then I followed the leader of Zongjai to look around in several caves that were chosen to grow vegetables. After entering, I found that the temperature in the cave was warmer than outside. The soil bed was also thickly laid by the ants and ladies, and there was enough fertilizer. After looking at it carefully, I felt that there should be hope for this matter. An ant said to Su Qingyu very excitedly, "Ms. Su, I think this can be done. Look, it's warmer inside this cave than outside. You won't be afraid even if it snows. The vegetables will definitely grow." The ant next to her laughed at her after hearing this. "You said at the beginning that this would not work. No one has ever grown vegetables in a cave. Why have you changed your mind now?" The ant smiled coquettishly, "I don't have much knowledge. How can we have Mrsu who has more knowledge?" Mrsu said that if she can achieve it, she will definitely do it. And I have removed the soil layer and looked at it, and the seeds are not dead. Buried the seeds in the soil have broken out and will sprout in a few days. Several aunties nodded excitedly after hearing this. Su Qingyu was also very happy when she heard that the seeds had broken out of their shells. I gave everyone a few words of encouragement. Just because the shell has broken out doesn't mean it will grow back. Although the air in this cave circulates, the light is obviously insufficient. The one at the entrance of the cave may be fine, but no one can tell what the one planted inside the hole will look like now. But as long as it sprouts, there is hope. In the end, if that doesn't work, you can just plant a variety of beans and eat sprouts instead. After seeing the planting situation in the cave, Sukingyu went to the greenhouse in the village to see it. Most of the houses that had not been inhabited for a long time collapsed, and the roofs were almost lifted off. At first, Sukingneo was afraid of the danger, so he simply had the roofs lifted off. Some had beams and columns left, and some simply took off the roofs entirely. Some were stripped down to only the surrounding walls. When it gets colder, we can build a frame with thatch and regenerate the fire pot. Although the temperature is lower than that of the cave, it will be able to light up during the day. It can also light a brazier to control the temperature. Vegetables will definitely grow in the greenhouse, so Sukingyu is not worried. But she still wanted to make use of several caves. For growing vegetables in winter, it is best to use it as a storage warehouse when the temperature is low in summer. In order to better observe the growth of vegetables in the cave, Sukingyu prepared another set of notebooks and charcoal pens for Shiuer and handed her the recording matters. Shiuer is running errands next to her now, and she is extremely happy and joyful. The whole person is no longer decadent. Every day I would ask her or Siyuan for advice on how to read. Now I can recognize a lot of words. He didn't hide away when he saw the cypress tree, but he turned a blind eye to the cypress tree's show of kindness and love. I'm just afraid that I still can't get over that hurdle in my heart. The leader of Zongjai was firstly happy with his granddaughter's transformation, and secondly, he felt very sad when he saw the unmarried couple turning into strangers. I am deeply saddened by what happened to my granddaughter. Sukinjeo did not stop interfering in Shiuer's affairs. She was busy for several days, and Lord Zonghan was also busy for several days. Finally, everyone on duty has been arranged. There are 2 groups of people in the morning and afternoon during the day, and there are 2 groups every 2 hours in the evening. Sukingyu looked at the list of personnel on duty and the status of their duties. When she saw that there were no omissions, she raised her hand and handed it over to Master Zongjai for arrangements. When she finished all this work, she found that it was getting colder. Sukingneo learned from the villagers that it snows every winter in the village. The leader of Zongjai said it wouldn't be very big and the snow wouldn't be very thick, but Sukingneo still shivered. It's humid and cold in the mountains. It seems that protection from cold and frost is the top priority this winter. Sukingyu turned around and immediately asked the brothers Siyuan and Siyuan to take a few men from the village out of the village and go to Renzhou and nearby counties to buy cotton quilts. After finishing this work, she was able to take a rest. On this day, when she returned home, she saw Xiaobao rushing towards her and staying in her arms, wilting and silent. She only thought that she had neglected the child and made the child emotional. He comforted Xiaobao a lot and gave him delicious food, but he didn't get Xiaobao's smile. She held Xiaobao and looked at it. I thought he was feeling unwell, sick, or something. Then I found that Xiaobao's 2 little feet were rubbing against each other from time to time. The 2 fat little hands are always grabbing and scratching each other. Xiaobao, what's going on? Why are you scratching your hands? Sukingyu took his 2 chubby hands and looked at them again and again, but found no problem. Looking at Xiaobao again, I saw him lying softly in Sukingneo's arms with his mouth pursed, and he rubbed himself in Sukingneo's arms. Then he tried his best to stretch out his little hand in front of Sukingyu, looking uncomfortable. Mom, it's itchy. My hands are itchy. Sukingyu held it over. Xiaobao, are your hands itchy? Mom, please blow me off. Sukingyu thought that he was disobedient again, and her curiosity came back. She was playing with bugs outside, and when she was stung by an bug, she blew it for him. I plan to blow him for a while and then apply some medicine on him. It's not red or swollen, so it shouldn't be a big problem. Unexpectedly, after she blew for a long time, Xiaobao not only did not smile happily at her like before, but actually cried out, "Mom, it's itchy. It's still itchy." I don't know if I was really stung by an insect, but I cried very loudly and looked very uncomfortable. "Oh, don't cry. Don't cry. Can you find ointment for our little baby and rub it on it? It will stop itching." Su Qingyu held him and walked around on the ground, coaxing him. When Ruyi and Lu heard his cry, they were frightened and ran to see him. Xiaobao rarely cries, and he cries so loudly. Hearing that his hand might have been stung by an insect, the mother and daughter rushed to get ointment. Su Qingyu hugged Xiaobao, who was crying and hiccuping, and applied medicine to him. I wiped each finger carefully and applied a thick layer, but Xiaobao still didn't stop crying. Su Qingyu was a little confused. Wasn't she stung by an insect? Xiaobao cried louder and louder, making Lu and Ruyi cry heartbroken. Su Qingyu remembered that Xiaobao's two little feet were rubbing against each other just now, so she took off his shoes and socks to take a look. Mrs. Lu looked and touched, and said to Su Qingyu, "Does Xiaobao have frostbite?" "Ah." Su Qingyu hurriedly held Xiaobao's little feet and stared at them carefully. She has never had frostbite and has no experience, so she doesn't know what it is like. After Ruyi heard what her mother said, she touched Xiaobao's hand and found hard bumps on several fingers, which were still a little red and swollen. She nodded to Su Qingyu, "It's frostbite." When Mrs. Lu heard this, she immediately got up and ran to the kitchen. "I'm going to find ginger slices." Ruyi also ran out. Su Qingyu looked at Xiaobao, who was crying with tears and runny nose, and felt extremely sad. She was an incompetent mother. She held her child to sleep every night and did not notice that the child had frostbite.